Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Hoffman Nursery is headed into 2025 with a few changes in leadership. Second-generation family member David Hoffman takes the reins as CEO of Hoffman Nursery, and he's joined by Craig Reynolds, who was promoted to Chief Operating Officer. These leadership changes come at a crucial time as Hoffman Nursery continues to strengthen its position as an industry leader, focusing on expanding its product offerings, embracing sustainable practices, and maintaining strong customer relationships. I caught up with David and Craig right before Christmas when we talked about the transition and what the company has planned for the coming year. Here's our conversation. So I want to ask you guys first, just looking back at 2024 as we're hitting the end of the year here, how was 24 for Hoffman Nursery? Did it hit your guys' expectations? How was it overall?
For the most part, everything went well. I mean, we had it was a good year. Landscape was good. I know at retail things were down a little bit, but for the nursery, we hit a lot of our goals that we'll kind of get into later, I'm sure. But overall, I think it was a good year for us.
Okay. Craig, from your perspective, are you kind of seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I do, Brian. We've spent a lot of time and effort in working on KPIs within the operations side. We've seen a lot of success from that. And, as we talked before, we've incorporated H2A labor into our operation, and they have proven to be extremely efficient in some of the things that we have them do.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think last year was a great year. Looking forward to next year because we've got some things in the plans as far as on the operational side that will help us even further.
Yeah, I mean, it's really building on the momentum that we feel like has really gained within our organization and
Sure.
kind of looking to the future of what things look like. I know we talked about having introduced a new green infrastructure collection and adding a few perennials within the perennial solutions to sort of complement the grass solutions that we've already had for years.
Okay.
So I think folks are, excited about it, from the innovation and sustainability side of things. That's sort of part of what we're trying to build in for the future. So
Right.
I think we're excited about it.
Yeah, well, because we're also taking a look at what works well together in the landscape on the grass and perennial side. So,
Okay.
I think we've got a good start on our perennial line, and we'll be expanding that as time goes by.
Okay.
But for the start of it, it's been very successful and a lot of interest in it. So, we're now promoting our Green Infrastructure Series, which is a collection of both grasses and perennials.
Okay. Yeah. And I definitely want to talk more at some point here about, as you guys look ahead, some of the other things that you guys are working on. I know you guys kind of closed 2024 with a big leadership transition. So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit. First, kind of find out, from each of your perspectives, what your new roles are going to be and how that's going to help shape the direction of Hoffman Nursery in the coming years.
Well, Brian, for me, this is Craig. So for me, moving into the role of Chief Operating Officer, I'm still going to oversee the day-to-day operations and the organization. So not only do I have operations, I've also taken on inventory, IT, and the sales and marketing side.
Okay.
So we just want to move forward with working closely with both David and Jill, aligning the company for success in the future.
Yeah.
And I think together we're going to just foster and collaborate what we need to achieve based on the goals that we're going to be setting here for the near future.
Okay.
So, my position as Senior Director of Operations, we'll take a look down the road at if we want to replace that, but we want to make sure that we find the right person that will carry on what I've been able to accomplish so far on the operations side. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a while since I've been back on the sales and marketing side, so I'm looking forward to getting back into that perspective of the business.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and so for me, it's a bit of a shift from what I had been doing, taking on a little bit more responsibility, and sort of we were looking, as I said, to the 3 to 5 year changes over time, and I think my mom, Jill Hoffman, is looking towards retirement, so I think trying to sort of set a tone for the future we've already been looking at that strategy and figuring out how all of that fits together for the
Sure.
future. So I think, we had already been doing it. So this was kind of a natural progression of things. And so I think, this gives Jill a lot more opportunity to be able to really focus in on the finances, which she's always done anyway.
Okay.
But as Craig mentioned, really build out that succession plan, because when we look to the next 3 to 5 years, we have a significant amount of people on our management team that are either retiring or that are retiring, honestly.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that we really need to be cognizant of, because there's a lot of institutional knowledge that needs to be captured, and we don't need to skip a beat with that. So I think that's
Okay.
going to be really important.
Yeah, I also think this transition brings on new energy and perspective into what we've already built.
Yeah.
And as David mentioned, it's looking for the 3, 5, 10-year plan. I think now is the right time to do that. We've got our basic foundations down. We need to build on that. We're doing very well on that. So I think overall this was the perfect time to make that change.
Okay. Okay. And it's refreshing to hear that. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more too, is, we heard so many times this, over the past year or two about, the struggles that a lot of family businesses have when it comes to the succession planning process, mainly because it just doesn't seem that they plan ahead enough, so that when it comes time for, the ownership to want to take a step back, you're seeing businesses close because they don't have a plan in place. So I know you guys have been working on this for a while. That whole process, I mean, are there things that you learned along the way about, what made the most sense? And I guess the other question is there anything different that you might have done as you went through this process?
Well, I think that I think that the thing about it is, Brian, is that what we're doing is that it's continuous improvement.
Yeah.
But even if we're successful at something, how can we get better at it? And from the operations side, that goes into, from the propagation from all the way up in through growing and shipping. How can we get better? What are our customers saying? How can we service them better? And I think this whole transition should just bring in a new energy into it. Our managers are excited about what they see that's taken place. And when you have a happy team, you have happy customers.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really at a good point. 24, we did do a lot of operational enhancements, tweaking, I should say.
Hmm.
We've seen a lot of success in that, and just, even down to how we're physically potting. We've purchased some new equipment, and, we're looking at for the future of how we can integrate more technology into what we're doing.
Okay.
So, I think it's geared. What we're doing now is geared for long-term longevity of the company.
Sure. Sure. David, from your perspective, you have the familial discussions that take place during this.
Mhm.
How did you guys start that process, and then make sure that you were doing it in a way that kept everybody all on the same page, both with the family and then with the team as well?
I mean, I think that this is all still, I feel like, pretty new for folks.
Sure.
Um, and I mean, I think for all of us that is. And so I think that, it'll take some time to settle in and sort of figure out where we all fit into that process. And, it's not, while it seems like it was quick, I mean, this is kind of what we had been talking about for a while now.
Hmm.
And so I think it's, trying to work with the family and figure out how that succession planning looked, and figure out which were the important parts, and um yeah, and all of that there's a lot of details that, quite frankly, still need to be worked out.
Sure.
And so with some of that, with Jill stepping back a little bit, is the goal. One of the goals is to hopefully give her a little bit more time to help to try to work on some of those things too,
Right.
so that she can step away from the overall management and direction, and that those types, not necessarily like completely step back from the strategy, but try to
Yeah.
identify, a percentage of her time to helping more with some of that succession planning too,
Okay.
which is, for the future of the business, is going to be extremely important
Yeah. Yeah.
to have a
Um,
clean transition, that is.
Sure, absolutely. I completely understand that. Having known, John and Jill for a long time, and with Jill, it sounds like she's going down the eventual retirement road. I think it was a couple of years ago that John said he was retiring, but I still think I see him more at shows now that I do before, but he's just not locked into the Hoffman booth now. He gets a chance to wander around and talk to people, which has got to be nice for him. But
That's right.
you know, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from them about, how to run the business, how to work with your team, and just how to, kind of make sure that you're focused not just on the day to day, but also on the long-term vision of the company?
I mean, I think for one of the biggest things that Craig alluded to earlier was just trying to establish good communication, but also trying to drive innovation and keep up with trends, not just from the sales and marketing and plant side of things, but also, becoming operationally efficient. And operationally extends beyond just the operations team, because I really think that, trying to build the best team for the future, and we have an awesome team, and I think that every day, we're presented with challenges that we all have to work through and try to overcome. And like I said, with that, with really looking towards the future and what the next 3 to 5 years look like, I think the team is jazzed about kind of what things look like and where we think we'll be if we do everything that we say that we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that's trying to build the hype and keep people engaged, and just trying to remain focused is certainly a challenge. And you veer off, and then you have to course correct and bring everybody back to where we need to be. But I think that we've worked hard to try to sort of remain focused, and if we're not, then trying to find a way to bring it back.
Okay.
It was important. I think from working with my folks, they've definitely taught us about how to work with customers, trying to build and maintain those relationships.
Yeah.
Strategic planning, like I said, technology and innovation. And then also, I mentioned, customers and creating partnerships with them, but really, partnerships go both ways. So vendors and customers. And then there's folks, again, outside of that really influence, and, they're trendsetters within the industry that we need to, continue to communicate with and open up those, and continue to build those relationships with. I mean, that's
okay.
The industry. This industry is built on relationships, and that's something that will continue to remain extremely important here at Hoffman Nursery.
Okay. And definitely those relationships that you talk about and that communication, both again with your vendors and with your customers, has got to be critical. And then you mentioned trend setting there too. And it seems like, that's an area where it looks like you guys tend to excel a lot as well. It's kind of knowing, where the consumer interest in certain plant categories is going to be in the near future, and then, responding quickly to those needs so that you can have the ability to offer your customers the products that they want, not just now, but here's what they might be looking at a couple of years down the road. We're going to be ready for you.
Yeah, and I think it's important to listen to your customers, but also at the same time advising them, as well. So
yeah,
the two work hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our sales team is working diligently on trying to enhance what we currently have and make those offerings to our customers if they don't already know about it.
So. Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff out there that, we keep trying to learn more about and add to education or content or whatever we're trying to get out there, because there's just a lot to be learned, especially even within the grasses and sedge world, and now green infrastructure that we've been talking about for years. But it's just, now it's really becoming more official in part in some of the collections that we're creating, and
sure,
shining a different light on it, which we're excited about.
Okay. Craig, I want to get your perspective. So I know the last time that I think that we really talked in depth is when you were still fairly new to the Hoffman team, coming into this industry from, outside the horticulture world, as you've kind of evolved through that process. what are some of the most important things that you've learned along the way about, not just this market, but then how this market maybe differs from some of the other fields that you were involved in the past, and where you see things going from here?
Yeah, well, Brian, I've been here for over 3.5 years.
Hmm.
And as you indicated, I did come from non-horticulture industry. I came from the cruise industry, so that's quite different. I've really had to dive in and learn quickly how, I'm now dealing with a living plant versus what I was doing in the past.
Mm,
And so it's not a gadget and a widget anymore. It's now something that's livable, that has to be sustained through its life cycle.
sure.
So I dived into every aspect of the nursery, to learn more about how they integrate with each other. 5 years ago, if you talked to me about erosion control or stormwater management or pollinators, I would have said, yeah, okay, that's great. That's nice. So I really had to focus myself on educating myself on the industry, and while bringing in some of the aspects that I had from my prior jobs,
Sure.
to Hoffman Nursery to help, re-energize what was already here.
He's really learned a lot.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, and if I recall, I think when you started, so it was like right around when some of the big trade shows were coming up. So there's no better way to learn this by jumping right into, an event like Cultivate, for example, and just, hit the ground running, talk to as many people as you can. So
Yeah, I started at the end of June, so Cultivate was the next month. So yeah.
Yeah,
oh
I think
yeah.
I was out for the first week he was here, and he just was like, "I got it. I'll talk to everybody and see what's going on."
Oh, I
Like,
love it.
great.
So, as you guys look ahead to this coming year, I know you've got, just for example, the trade show season is starting up here in just a couple of weeks or so. So, what do you guys have planned for that? And then, how you're going to continue to just kind of connect with your customers and keep up with their needs, as you have these kinds of communication.
Well, I mean, with this transition, I'm really hoping that, to Craig's point earlier, focusing not only on KPIs and building those relationships and maintaining those is going to be extremely important to us. I think that, we've got big goals in mind, and,
Mm,
both, just trying to hit targets and things like that, but also just, we want to continue to grow and get better, and be able to continue to attract top talent to be able to help build this team, because that's, like I mentioned earlier, we've got we will have holes to fill in the future, and trying to make sure that we can continue to provide the quality product, and continue to meet the expectations that our customers have always had from us.
sure.
And then also, there's parts of the U.S. that we don't currently service, and we're going to start looking more aggressively at that.
Okay.
The low maintenance plants, drought tolerant, there's a whole market out there for that.
Yeah.
And so it's just educating, I think, is one of the big things, is just communication and education to our customers. And we're
Mm,
going to focus a lot more on that in the future too.
okay. And you do hear so much about that now, plants that can handle, variety of climatic conditions, whether it's drought, whether it's heat tolerance, cold hardiness, and with the diversity of the crops that you guys offer, that's got to be something that you pay close attention to, I would think.
Well, yeah, and that's part of our green infrastructure series. I
Hmm.
mean, that's can be tailored to that as well. And so again, we just need to look, what is it our customers are needing, what can we offer them, and what can we offer them in the future that we currently don't offer them.
Sure.
But I think too, the other thing is there's I think the ASLA came out with it was like 6 different climate conditions that were challenging, or challenges that need to be solved. So it's everything from landslides to floods to drought, and a couple more. But those are really some of the things that we're focused on, to say, hey, how can what we already grow solve those problems for you as designers and growers out
Yeah.
there? That, it's like, here's a prepackaged list of items that can help, so that, you can provide those solutions to your customers in the end.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be something, trying to bring that message up and continue to talk about it. I mean, that was something that we saw at the National ASLA event last year. Was there were a lot of conversations about how the plants that we provide and some of the other vendors there could help with that.
Okay. Okay. And that solutions perspective is really nice too, because, a new plant introduction isn't just about, the color and everything, but it's, it's as Dr. Alan Armitage talks about, when we talk to him for his columns for us, it's all about solution gardening. That's what consumers seem to be looking for now more than ever is, how can a plant solve an issue that we're having at home?
Yeah. Well, and if you can couple that with beauty as well, then that's
Yeah.
even better.
Hmm.
So I think that's, we're trying to figure out the best of both worlds still.
Okay. Okay. Each of you referred to, how you're going to be approaching, operational efficiency and then tied to that technology investment as you guys look ahead. I know that there's so many different options that growers have today when it comes to, what types of technology can we add or update within our facilities to help us become more efficient. How do you guys approach that to make sure that you're making the right decisions on anything from return on investment to just, how's my team going to be able to respond to using something new, and how does that tie into our overall efficiency?
Well, the industry as a whole is a very labor-intensive industry,
Mm,
and so what's out there that can help us achieve what we need to achieve? Um, the investment that we make, what is that going to be, and how is that going to help us? We've got some things in the works for 25, 26 that we feel will help us further, not only in the planting, the growing sides, but also customer satisfaction. And so it's just, you don't want to jump into anything. You want to make sure you evaluate it and how that's going to fit into your current model that you're doing.
mm,
And what adjustments are you going to have to make on implementation? And then what is the effects of that on your employees or on your nursery as a whole? So it's a process that, you have to look in depth at all the different facades of what it's going to entail. And so we've got some things in the works, like I said, that we want to implement, and we're still in the analyzing stage of that.
sure.
And I think one thing to complement that is one of the, I guess, big things that, everybody's talking about now is AI and data and how all of that can help us make decisions. And
Sure.
we have a lot of data, and trying to comb through it by ourselves on top of all the other work that we have is just a mountain, trying to move a mountain. And so being strategic in how we can um, not only identify opportunities, but also implement those types of technologies to be able to, I guess, drive that success, and give us good information to be able to make those decisions. Because
Hmm.
we have, again, all sorts of information, but without having synthesized that to be in a good way to be able to act on it, it's useless.
Oh yeah. Well, and I mean, you hear that so often, we can collect all the data we want, but if we can't come up with a way to make an informed solution based on the data we're seeing, you can collect you collect everything you want, but it's not going to matter if you can't make the right decision on it. Plus, I think the
Right.
fact that you've got so many potential tools that are out there for that, what's going to be the best one for you? You
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that coupled with, again, we mentioned it earlier, but finding the right partners to be able to work with, because our industry is extremely labor intensive,
Yeah.
particularly when you're splitting plants.
Sure.
That's our biggest labor sink here. The H2A have helped with that. To Craig's
Sure.
point earlier, we've found a really great partner with Legacy Labor there, and they've been great to help solve some of that.
Hmm.
But ultimately, it's still a huge amount of that's a big cost for the company anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, trying to figure out creative ways to solve solve not just labor constraints, but also be efficient with it is extremely important to what we're looking at for the future.
Okay. Okay. As you guys look ahead to this year, I'll ask you, what are each of you most excited about, both when it comes to Hoffman Nursery in particular and what you guys have planned, but then also just the horticulture industry in general. What excites you the most about where we're headed?
Good question.
I like to close with the toughest question sometimes.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. Going into the trade shows is always a really good gauge of how the year looks for everyone. So I'm excited to go back and see folks to start with that, and then go into another good year. I mean, we're jazzed about things here. There's a lot to talk about, just in some of the process improvements that Craig was mentioning earlier, and I think there's again even more opportunities to be able to get better at what we're doing. I think as the industry as a whole, I mean, there's still a lot of people are still looking for a lot of plants out there. And I think that's with a lot of the succession planning that you had talked about earlier, I mean, I think it can create other opportunities for other growers too. So, or anyone within this industry. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about it, from that perspective, that I just think there's, the world is our oyster.
Well, that plus, we've got things in the works for 25 and 26, as I indicated earlier. It's still premature to really talk about it, but it will enhance our current product offering to our customers. And I think once we get that finalized and released, it will make a change for the nursery as a whole, and while benefiting our customers at the same time. But we will make sure that you're the first one to know about it, Brian.
That's always appreciated. Well, and I can imagine too, it's got to be a challenge. Just if you look at how the last 5 years have gone and just the roller coaster that this industry has seen, how that affects your ability to be able to plan for next year and then 2 years down the road, and keeping an eye on, the consumers that we gained during the pandemic. How are we going to continue to be able to keep them interested in plants and gardening and horticulture? So, I know that you guys do a lot of work on that. So, that's really refreshing to see.
Yeah.
But, it's educating also on better living through plants. And so that's one of the things that I've learned as well. So I was very fortunate with David and Jill both in helping me in that education process.
Yeah, I look forward to catching up with you guys, as we get into some of the shows here. I'll be at Mance in a couple of weeks. So by the time people listen to this, it will be right around the corner. So it's going to be another fun year. Looking forward to the chance to reconnect and just kind of get out there and talk to people.
That's right. That's all there is to it.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, and please leave us a rating as it helps other podcast listeners find the show.